Our top focus this morning is on Prime Minister Modi's landmark visit to the United States. Prime Minister's Air India One aircraft touched down at the St. Andrews base in Maryland a few hours ago, and it starts off a power-packed visit for Prime Minister Modi. He is welcomed by senior officials, the Biden administration and India's envoy to US, Taranjit Singh Sandhu. The Indian diaspora are also there. They gave a warm welcome to Prime Minister Modi, as you see on your screens there. He briefly also was seen interacting and meeting with the Indian diaspora, thanking them for their support. Now he's got a packed itinerary ahead for the next 3 days. Let's focus on what's expected today. Prime Minister Modi will be holding crucial bilateral talks with US Vice President Kamala Harris. That's at 12:45 a.m. Indian Standard Time. But before that, Prime Minister Modi is also going to be meeting the top 5 CEOs in Washington. This includes the Qualcomm CEO, Cristiano E Amon. You have the Adobe chairman, Shantanu Narayen, First Solar CEO, Widmar, General Atomic CEO, Vivek Lall, Blackstone CEO, Stephen A Schwarzman. Now, the Prime Minister's one-on-one meeting with the CEOs is expected to begin at 7:35 this evening and is likely to last an hour each. After that, the Prime Minister will hold bilateral talks with Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison. That's going to happen at 11 p.m. tonight.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in the United States of America after 6 months of hiatus. A massive security presence outside his hotel. That's Hotel Willard, which is where he stays normally. This time around also, he's staying at this historic hotel, and there is absolute security presence and barricading of the hotel. If you see on the right and the left-hand side, there are these cement huge block barricades to ensure that no cars really pass through this entire lane, this entire road outside of Hotel Willard. There are trucks that are parked right through the lane that touches the hotel to ensure that no cars are parked and to ensure that security is absolutely 100% foolproof. On the other side as well, you can see security presence, vehicles and barricading. So no entry into or outside of Hotel Willard unless and until they're checked by security personnel. He's not the only high delegation level official or a leader who's arrived at in the United States of America. We have the Prime Minister of Australia and the Prime Minister of Japan both here in the US, and there are going to be bilateral meetings that Prime Minister Narendra Modi will hold with all his counterparts, including a bilateral meeting with President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. There's also an important engagement when it comes to the business community. He's going to meet top business honchos of the country to speak of post-COVID recovery, economic recovery when it comes to India and the United States of America, and how can the two countries move forward. Quad in-person meeting is a very important aspect of his visit, not just to see how to counter China and China's aggressive posturing in the Indo-Pacific, but also to ensure that there's resilient supply chains, and India is key to that entire global supply chain. After which he is going to address the United Nations General Assembly in New York. Video journalist Yogendra Singh in Washington DC, Geeta Mohan for India Today.
Another highlight of the Prime Minister's visit to America is that you're going to be seeing the first ever in-person Quad Summit taking place in the White House. That's on Friday. Ahead of the crucial Quad Summit, Prime Minister Modi will be holding a standalone bilateral meeting with the Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga. You also got a meeting with Australia Prime Minister Scott Morrison, and of course they're all important bilateral with US President Joe Biden. The agenda of the meetings will be to counter China's growing influence in the Indo-Pacific region. Beijing's military presence and political influence in the Indo-Pacific region pose a major threat to India, to Japan as well as to Australia. And Prime Minister Modi's meeting with the Quad leaders is being seen essentially as a move to tackle China's rise and also a commitment to a free and prosperous Indo-Pacific region. The Quad group is an informal strategic dialogue. It's got 4 members: India, Japan, Australia and the United States.
This is where Prime Minister Narendra Modi will hold bilateral meeting with President Biden, followed by the big Quad meeting, the first in-person meeting of Quad leadership that will take place at the White House. Primarily, the focus is going to be how to ensure that China and Chinese aggression is contained in the entire Indo-Pacific region. There are many areas that will be covered when it comes to alliances, but also the focus will remain counter-terrorism, post-COVID recovery, is also supply chain resilience. These are very important aspects, but terrorism and the situation in Afghanistan certainly are going to be key. President Biden has been criticized for having withdrawn troops very hastily from Afghanistan, and the focus now shifting to another theater, that's the Indo-Pacific. But the fact of the matter is that for India, for Australia, for Japan, for many other countries, security situation in Afghanistan is a huge concern. There is the white flag that flutters in every building, atop every building in Afghanistan, but there are certain people over here who still are keeping the tricolor of Afghanistan flying high. That's the Afghan flag. This is a tenement that first started as a protest site to protest nuclear war or nuclear arms race. That was in 1978, and it became a permanent structure in 1981. Concerned citizens saying that India, being next door neighbor, should not be influenced by what Pakistan is doing. Speaking of Pakistan, will certainly come up when Prime Minister Narendra Modi meets the leaders of Quad, as also President Biden. Video journalist Yogendra Singh in Washington DC, right outside White House. Geeta Mohan for India Today.
Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in an important message, called out vaccine racism at the global COVID summit, sending out a strong message against discrimination. Prime Minister Modi asked all countries to honor vaccine certificates. The Prime Minister said that recognizing mutual jab certificate is crucial in really easing international travel and boosting crumbling economies. Prime Minister Modi's big message comes at a time when, remember what the United Kingdom has done. They've recognized the Covishield vaccine, but are yet to, in fact, relieve Indian travellers of the 10-day mandatory quarantine, because they say, and this is what they said in their statement, that there are certification issues.
We also need to focus on addressing the pandemic economic effects. To that end, international travel should be made easier through mutual recognition of vaccine certificates.